Second half, he just forgot what.
The second half, it's almost like a call from the MLS, and they said, "Hey, we don't want the Loons to be alive anymore in the playoffs. So could you just make things happen?" There was a play. I can't remember what the play was. Maybe it was in the first half. New York FC player went studs up on one of our players. I remember what it was. And should have been, I think it was a yellow card at that point, but it potentially should have been a red card at that point. And the announcers were saying the same thing, was he was studs up. He was not really going for the ball. He came in hot. And if you go studs up on a guy, it should be a red card.
Right.
They didn't even review it in the box.
Right.
Didn't review it. And so that was that. And then we get into the second half, and New York, of course, flopping around. And Warner gets he got a red card it was the second yellow of the night.
Yep.
But that was his own fault.
Oh, yeah, it was a terrible time.
It was a terrible time. But we had another couple plays, too, where the elbow to the neck came up at least once or twice.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was. And they were reviewing those two calls for reds up in the box.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm going, let's go back. Let's step back a little bit here. We had a studs up play in the first half, and penalty guys in the box like, well, that's fine. And now we have guys doing the whole elbow to the side of the head, and now we're going to review this stuff.
Right.
Sorry, my dog is getting very aggressive right now. So that was all the penalties there. Warner, of course, is out next week.
Right, which probably won't be a big issue because Bob and Max will be back.
I'm going to go grab my dog because he's barking. I think he thinks he hasn't seen Dave yet. That's the problem. Yeah. Usually when Dave comes over, Dave come over to my garage. My dog comes out, sniffs him, and goes, "Okay, you guys are here for the podcast. We're all cool." Now I think he's heard my voice, and now he's being all aggressive about it. So, I'm going to grab him. Come on. Come on. There you go. See? There you go, buddy. See? Dave's here. Yes. You can't get this on any other podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Dogs barking, sniffing, having a good time. So we go into the second half, and we get, what was the goal? The last goal that New York FC got was just, I don't know how to explain it. I just don't.
It was just prototypical Minnesota United.
Yeah.
It was a cross. I want to say it was Castellano. Is that how I say that? Castellanos.
Yes.
Got his foot on it. He got a shot off.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby saved it, and God knows what reason Bobby decided to let the ball trickle out of his hands.
Yeah.
And it's literally rolling in front of the box. I don't know what it looked like on broadcast. We saw a replay of it at the stadium.
Yeah.
And Castellanos is on the ground. I think he was on his back. Yes. And he's like trying to head it with his head on the ground.
Yep.
And then finally, Wallace was it? I think. Wallace walked it in.
Yeah.
Into the net. I
would love to see a video replay in slow motion of Adrian Heath when the ball is trickling in front of the net, going, "No!" Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was doing the same thing at home, like, "Oh no! Get that out of there, man! Get it out!" Yeah,
and at the stadium, at least in my section, it was like dead silence. Like everybody's just like gasped, and we're just like, "What is happening?
What's going on?" Yeah, it was one of those crazy plays in MLS that, a team like ours, you look at it and you go, it's typical.
Right.
It's just typical of us. You get these crazy plays that happen to go in, and now we're only up by 1. And the problem at that point was that in the 91st minute, they had added 6 minutes of time. And then on the broadcast they're saying they're going to add another 5 minutes on top of that.
It was 4 minutes because of something. I don't remember. It was a review of some kind.
Well, I think it was because that dude the guy from New York FC, did you remember that play? Going back to the whole flopping thing. He was on the ground for like 5 flipping minutes.
That's right.
And then the Loons finally said, okay, we kicked it out of bounds. And guess what? Then he stood up.
Yeah. And he stood up as soon as the referee got within like 10 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
He just hops up.
Yeah.
And then the referee told him to go. And there was a review for something, though, after that goal.
Was it?
And I don't remember.
Offsides.
I mean, we obviously don't know what it was because they don't tell us anything.
It was offsides review. Offsides. Okay. Yep. Offsides review.
And so, yeah, they added 4 minutes on. In fact, it wasn't nearly as nervy as the Portland end was.
No, but the fact that they scored that in the 91st minute and then you have all this extra time happening, you're still freaked out about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going back to your whole of, it's the Loons again. We're going to get a tie.
Yeah.
Playoffs are done. It's all over, So,
yeah, I started my stopwatch on my phone.
Yeah.
Right at 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was going. And the referee announced the extra 4 minutes at 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I looked over at John, I'm like, it's going to be 7 and change. Mm-hmm. And about 6 minutes, everybody around us is booing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking down at my phone and I'm like, no, we've still got time.
We've still got time, yeah.
Yep. And he literally blew the whistle like 7:04.
Yeah, he did.
But so I mean, he's really fair about that, which is unusual. It was almost another Colorado where we were up 3-1 and we ended up
losing. Yep. But so the last 2 games now, last week's game, this week's game, have been again same deal, same last 2 games. Go up early, opponents come back. We have anxiety about losing these flipping games, and we end up winning.
Yep.
So once again, we're still in the playoff hunt.
We're still in the playoff hunt.
And we are what now?
So we are now at 36 points.
Yes.
We are 9 back from Salt Lake.
With 4 games to go.
With 4 games to go. And that is a massive mountain, especially with L.A. right between us.
L.A. and Vancouver right between us, yep.
Unfortunately, Dave's not here. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to look it up. I was going to look up the Salt Lake schedules, L.A. schedules. We know that L.A. comes here.
Yeah.
Also Vancouver's schedule, I guess. But, mathematically, we could still do it.
We could still do it. I mean,
it's not likely, but
it's going to take some losses. But we're still in the hunt, which is good because at least we have more to talk about on this podcast in 2 weeks.
And we have more wins than we did last year.
We have 11 wins now. We had 10 last year, so we're better than last year. We're making advances, getting up there. So I guess that's it for the last 2 games.
Yeah.
I think we're going to take a little break here, grab another beer, and we'll come back. We'll talk about some other United stuff. We have some stuff to talk about with a new lower league team, potentially being our affiliate. Yeah. Also want to talk about, there was a article about the ownership giving high grades to Manny Lagos. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Talk about the cruise that me and Dave Stevens went on, and some other random stuff. So we'll be back in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. We took a little break, put my dog back in the house because he's kind of needy. We got some more beers. Dave is drinking the cacao porter from Inky Brewery in Victoria, Minnesota. How is that for you?
Porters are my favorite beer, and I think this is right up there. I mean, it's a nice malty beer. It doesn't taste like there's a lot of bitterness from the roasted malts. It tastes more like it might be coming from the cocoa.
Sure.
I mean, it's the can says that it's smooth and silky. Mm-hmm. I'd give it that.
You give it that?
Yeah, it's good.
You ever had the cocoa bender from Surly? You ever had that?
I have.
How's that rate with this?
Well, this is I would say this is very mild. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of, in terms of hop profile, there's not much of anything.
Okay.
So I think if people like a smooth drinker, sure. I think this wins out over Surly.
Sure. And Surly's always known for being more hoppy. And which gets into my point of I just opened up a Kitsch hoppy lager from Surly. It's out of their hoppy pack they just came out with. Funny story. I went to the liquor store on Friday, knowing we're going to this podcast on Sunday, knowing that my in-laws were going to be over this weekend. And the liquor store I went to, I couldn't find anything except for Surly stuff. So I bought all Surly stuff. This Kitsch, I've had it before. It's fantastic. It's a hoppy, I would say it's kind of a, how would you put it? It's a hoppy lager is what it is. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a lager, but it's got some bitterness to it.
So it's like an MGD with hops?
Look at that. So the milk, I'm going to put my father-in-law out there right now. Hi, Tom. I know you're listening to this. You'll be listening to this later on. It's like a Miller Lite with hops. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, well, it's Surly, so of course they up the ante a little bit. So, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, Dave Stevens is not here. He's on assignment in Argentina for his other job because we don't pay him. Do we have any payment? Do we pay him for this?
No, we haven't gotten any.
Don't pay him. Yeah, we don't pay him. I just texted him. I said, would you like to say anything to listeners? He said, you can just say, I'm happy with the Loons' latest win and happy representing Minnesota United FC in Argentina. Plus, that I'm looking forward to returning to the podcast after a long break. And I don't know if you should even let him back. I mean, he's been gone for a month.
That's a good point.
I mean, I think we have to.
Isn't it kind of like desertion?
A little bit, but we can't have another podcast without Stat Guy.
That's true. I mean,
we've
struggled
stats.
Mightily with our stats.
We do need stats. We haven't had stats for 2 podcasts now.
That's a good point.
And you and I are not good at stats.
No, I start kind of rambling and mumbling as I'm looking for stuff.
Yeah. I'm not a big stat. I mean, I know stats, but I'm I just can't. He's got the iPad going on, and he's looking stuff up as we're talking, and then he, Stats Guy Dave,
Yeah, he'll probably be a little upset to know that we have a porter. Because
he's a big porter guy. Yeah. He's a big porter guy. Yeah. So
it's too bad.
As I spill my beer myself, let's. I'm going to talk about 2 weeks from now. We have another podcast coming up. It's going to be interesting, Dave, because I talked about this before we started. I have Oktoberfest in New Ulm that weekend. Plus, I have a Vikings game to go to on Sunday. Plus, we do a podcast. Plus, your wife is expecting your son
at some point.
In the next couple weeks here.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of things coming together